Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome to another exciting edition of Living at Your Highest Quality of Life with the doctors at Inspire Wellness. Just to remind you, I'm Dan Nitis.
I'm Jessica Hutchins.
So thank you again for participating in these, watching these, forwarding these to your friends, family, coworkers, enemies, anyone that you think can benefit from these topics. We're certainly trying to highlight the more common either symptoms or known diagnoses. So appreciate your participation in what it is that you would like to learn more about. So before we get started on the topic of Parkinson's disease, I just want to remind people that I had a patient remind me that many open enrollments for insurance are occurring right about now. So if there's an opportunity for participating in an HSA, health savings account, or FSA, flexible spending account, this gives you the power to be able to decide where you want to spend your healthcare dollars. So again, knowing that it can be challenging for patients to see us and other providers in a no insurance type model, using an HSA or FSA is an opportunity for you to not have to incur huge expenses at the time of service if you're populating those cards with dollars, or your employer is. So again, just want to remind people that there is that opportunity now if you have open enrollment.
Right, and also if you're not getting your insurance through your employer, or if you're not happy with the employer insurance and want to go on the open market to get insurance, there are things called health shares. I think that's what they're called, like Liberty Health Share. And there are a couple other ones that we have several patients on those,
Yes.
And they tend to be much better about reimbursing for things that are a little bit outside of the box of traditional medicine, but that really work and will obviously save the insurance company money in the long run, like functional medicine treatments, supplements, chiropractic, acupuncture, things like that. So again, there's lots of options. So don't be forced into thinking that you only have an option of going to the specific doctor that your insurance plan tells you can go to.
Great. So let's dive in. Today's topic again is Parkinson's disease. What is it that we know from a functional medicine standpoint that can help with some of the more challenging symptoms, and what can we do on the prevention side? Again, same type of a roadmap that we use week in and week out in terms of helping you identify ways to improve symptoms, but again, want to acknowledge the challenges that people face with Parkinson's disease. The patients that we take care of, I know, this is a challenge. This is hard. Day-to-day living is not easy. The tremor, the movement, the brain fog and memory loss.
Especially if your job requires use of hands too.
The imbalance. And then the craziest thing is, just like anything else, we keep talking about this almost week after week after week, is it is affecting younger and younger people. Right?
Every chronic diseases.
Right. Yeah. So this isn't just Michael J. Fox 30 years ago developing Parkinson's disease when he was in his late 20s or early 30s. And is the only one. I mean, we are seeing more and more people, unfortunately, being diagnosed with Parkinson's and other movement disorders at younger and younger ages. So definitely want to acknowledge the fact that this is an ongoing problem, and that anything that we can do to help alleviate any of that suffering, we would like to be able to help you. So let's talk about it.
All right. Well, first of all, what is Parkinson's disease? I'm not going to go through a list of symptoms, because I imagine if you're watching, you've known or seen somebody with Parkinson's, but at its root, it's a mitochondrial disorder, and a lot of chronic diseases are, for sure. Mitochondria live in every single cell, and they're the powerhouses of the cell, and that's what make ATP, or energy. So if you don't have the mitochondria getting to the right things, like your muscles or your brain, you're going to have these symptoms for sure. And so when we're looking for causes and prevention, we want to figure out what might cause this mitochondrial dysfunction. And there's lots of things that cause mitochondrial dysfunction. It's kind of an epidemic now with chronic fatigue, et cetera, MS, things like that. They're all mitochondrial diseases. But toxins are the biggest source of mitochondrial disruption or dysfunction for sure. So as far as prevention, I mean, the biggest thing you can do, which is the same again that we say every week for all of these chronic diseases, is optimize your nutrition so you can detoxify and limit the amount of things, the toxins that you're exposed to. So avoid all avoidable toxins, because there's a lot out there that are really hard to avoid, especially living in the Midwest, like air pollution, et cetera.
And I think you're bringing up a really good point that we want to reemphasize again. I think we've used this analogy in the past that our bodies are provided with we'll call a built-in detoxification system. And so the way I think about this is that that detoxification system is the equivalent of a 5-gallon rain bucket. And as long as the rainwater stays in that bucket, the body can detoxify out those disruptors that prevent normal body chemistry or normal energy flow from being able to occur. The problem in 2018 and beyond is that that 5-gallon rain bucket needs to be replaced with a 55-gallon drum, to be honest with you. The amount of toxicities that are coming in that we have to detoxify out is like nothing that we have seen before over the last 50 or 60 years. And when we did a Facebook Live from the sauna, that was probably about 4 or 5 months ago, we talked very specifically about the number of chemicals that have been identified in industry and then introduced into both the food supply and the water supply. So for more information on that, I don't want to repeat that today, but you can watch that Facebook Live from when we're in the sauna, so you'll be able to tell that one. But are there toxins that are more likely to, like, I mean, I'm assuming metals are going to be, right?
Yeah, so yes, heavy metals are a huge source of toxins that are implicated in a lot of neurological diseases, Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and dementia. So some of the heavy metals that we know from scientific research that are associated are things like cadmium, which are present in cigarette smoke, even copper, manganese, lead, and then mercury for sure. Even iron. Sometimes people have high iron, and that can be a toxin, but mercury is one of the biggest ones for sure. And then the other class of toxins, it's much easier to avoid, I think, are pesticides. So pesticides, without a doubt, are linked to these kinds of diseases, probably any chronic disease, but absolutely Parkinson's. So glyphosate and Roundup we talk about all the time. You want to get organic food all the time. And if you make a goal to do it all the time, maybe you'll end up doing it 80% of the time. And it's hard to eat organic when you go out to eat. So at least maybe commit to that 100% when you're in your home, because it does make a difference. It is worth the extra money. It's really not extra money. It's just that the cheap food is cheaper. You know what I mean? Like it's not extra, it's just what it is. And we say this all the time too, but when you use your dollars, that's either supporting or not supporting certain, industries. So using your dollars to buy organic will help support these organic farms. So hopefully the price can come down if that's all people are buying. But if you continue to support conventional farms, that's who's going to grow. And the government has made the choice to support only conventional farms and kind of be a burden to organic farms, unfortunately. But especially the Dirty Dozen, which you can look up on EWG.org, Environmental Working Group. Each year they put out a list of the most heavily contaminated fruits and vegetables with pesticides. So you for sure at a minimum want to get organic with that. So again, pesticides and heavy metals. So don't expose yourself to mercury when you can avoid it, such as getting a multi-dose flu shot, which is probably 90% of the flu shots given, that has mercury. Getting amalgam or metal colored fillings, they have mercury. And also any dentists out there who are worried at all about this, that is a real concern, and you should stop using mercury immediately. And if you take it out, you need to take precautions. Hopefully at some point we're going to have a biological dentist on here to help explain that a little bit better too. But honestly, those are the big things that you look out for to avoid, to prevent specifically Parkinson's, but any chronic disease. And so you can help your body detoxify too, with everything we say every week, right? Infrared sauna, movement, yoga, dry brushing, different supplements, Epsom salt baths, foods, right? So foods are a big thing for treatment and prevention.
Right. Cruciferous vegetables, your broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, impact both phase 1 and phase 2 of detoxification, which is really important. I wanted to ask you about fragrances. So specifically, are those linked? I know that fragrances can, again, have to oftentimes be detoxified out. And then the other interesting thing I found out about fragrances is that the companies that use fragrances for whatever it is, it could be for clothing, it could be for personal care products, it doesn't matter. Personal care products, your soap, shampoos, all that stuff. They don't have to list the ingredients, right? It just can say proprietary blend. So we don't even know theoretically what we're breathing in.
Right, so you should avoid anything that says artificial fragrance or synthetic fragrance, even without the ingredients, because they're always bad, always. So that's why they don't disclose them.
So essential oils would be, again,
Oh, sure.
That's
I
really
would
good.
only use things with essential oils for fragrances or some kind of natural scent or no scent at all. But yeah, artificial fragrances are really becoming the new smoking, secondhand smoke, and they are impacting a lot of people. There's a lot of people with multiple chemical sensitivities, whether they know it or not. They get affected by all these scents, and they're everywhere. And I know where we worked before, we had a rule that nobody was allowed to wear any scents. And I think it took a while to really understand why that rule was there, but you know, it was for a reason for sure. So again, along with the prevention and the foods, you can't eat enough of vegetables and all the colors of the rainbow, and garlic and onions too, specifically, and organ meats. Organ meats have a really high density of a lot of good nutrition, good fat-soluble vitamins, and something called N-butyrate, which is a good fuel for a lot of different cells. It also has K2. K2 has been shown to really help specifically with Parkinson's, and the K2 sources not so much from green leafy vegetables like the K1, but animal products. So whether or not you eat animal products, that is a benefit of them. So organ meat specifically, and also ghee. So for anybody who can't tolerate regular dairy and uses ghee for a butter substitute, that's really high in the healthy K2. Great. For sure. And then stress. So stress absolutely exacerbates symptoms for sure. So why wouldn't it help to prevent it if you controlled your stress? If you have a baseline normal cortisol level that only really elevates during times of real stress, not perceived stress, but really when you need to mobilize and run away from a car chasing you or something like that, you know, then it's going to help. And then sleep is the other big category too. So we need to make sure to sleep all the time. I mean, every single night. One night without sleep is not okay. You know, and you can't really make up for it later on. So good, nice, uninterrupted sleep. So whether you take melatonin, which has also been shown to improve Parkinson's symptoms, take a nice Epsom salt bath before bed, or use some light therapy maybe during the day, and then turn all the lights off at night before bed. I think you all know the basic sleep hygiene rules. And then as far as treatments, once there is a diagnosis already, so everything you said with the foods, for sure. Like diet is the most important thing you can do to help your body with any chronic disease, especially a neurological movement disorder, for sure. And so there's been a lot of interest in the keto diet, ketogenic diet, or fasting mimicking diets, where the body is really put into a state of ketosis. And that seems to really benefit. So decreasing the processed carbs, getting the processed carbs out, and not maybe to the extent where you have to measure your ketones in your urine, but literally just eating vegetables, good fats, healthy proteins, and that's it. Hardly any carbs, especially no processed carbs for sure. So if you're not already doing that and you have Parkinson's, definitely try it. I mean, it's not going to hurt you for sure, and it's worth a try, and you might see the difference within just even a couple of weeks for sure. And then you want to detoxify. So if you already have Parkinson's, that's, again, besides the diet, that's probably the second most important thing you can do.
So do you recommend doing like a urine heavy metal screening to see if there's evidence of heavy metals within the body? Remembering that metals settle in brain, bone, and fat. They're not in the serum. So you have to coax the metals to come out to be able to measure them. But is that something that you do?
Right. You know, chelation is the word that we use to treat, to pull the heavy metals out and try to get rid of them. And to do that, it's kind of a big intensive project. So most people don't want to undertake that. And it does have some risks. So we want data before we do something like that. So yeah, heavy metals test is a great idea. There's also labs, the Great Plains lab specifically, that's doing a glyphosate test. And they are also doing a whole toxin screen, a non-heavy metals toxin screen. So for example, in someone who's in an industry or field working where they're exposed to certain toxins all the time, that's one way to say, you know, is this really affecting my health? Should I not be doing this while I'm trying to heal and recover, you know, in this profession, or be exposed to this kind of chemical? Right. And sometimes we uncover sources of chemical exposures that wouldn't be, you know, recognized otherwise. So
great. So I know we're up against it time-wise. Two questions that I had is, would glutathione, which is the master detoxifier, as a supplement, help? And then Parkinson's is one of the diagnoses that we can prescribe medical cannabis for to ease the symptoms, and just wanted to know what your opinion was on those.
So glutathione is probably, you know, if you Google glutathione and Parkinson's, and David Perlmutter specifically, he's been doing this for years now, treating the Parkinson's symptoms with IV glutathione. Glutathione is the master detoxifier, so it's good for pretty much anything, unless you have some people with sulfur sensitivities can't handle a lot of it. But glutathione for sure, like we've seen people, they'll get an IV glutathione, and then they'll be able to walk easier out the door and not have their little shuffling pattern, or their tremor will go away. And it won't necessarily last a long time, but the more glutathione that's in your system and the more you can build up the levels in your cells, the longer time in between infusions you can see those things last. And really, there's no downside, again, unless you're sensitive to sulfur, there's really no downside of trying the IV glutathione, and it really may help. It helps a significant number of people. Again, even if it's short term, you at least have a window into, wow, things can get better. Let's work on detoxification, because again, glutathione is the master detoxifier. So if it works, that just confirms that your main issue is toxins and an inability to detoxify. So definitely come on in if you want to try that.
What about cannabis?
Sure. So cannabis, yeah, it's interesting that Parkinson's was picked for that, but it can help relax tremor. It can help sleep. And I don't know if I mentioned sleep enough, but sleep, when you already have the diagnosis, is extremely important. Symptoms are almost always worse the day after the poor sleep. So cannabis can for sure help with that. It can just give you a sense of calm too. So again, pretty much no harm at all, as long as you don't keep a bunch of snack food in your house, because again, eating is the most important thing. So, it's worth a try. It's absolutely worth a try, that and glutathione together. And the other supplement that's probably studied the most in Parkinson's is CoQ10 too, which can just be an over-the-counter supplement. Doesn't need to be IV at all. So yeah, cannabis for sure. I mean, cannabis is, now that it's legal medically, again, there's really no harm to just trying it. What do you have to lose?
And both of us are one of the couple hundred doctors in Ohio certified to prescribe medical cannabis. So again, if that's something that you want to pursue, we're more than happy to talk to you about that and do an evaluation to see if that would be right for you as an individual, again, or a family member that you know of. We're happy to see them. We also do offer the glutathione. So we have that. We can do a shot into the muscle. We can do an IV as well.
Yeah, for Parkinson's, I would definitely recommend an IV. You need a high dose, and you can't start with a really high dose. You kind of have to work your way up to it for sure. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to offer glutathione, was for something like Parkinson's.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you for that recap on Parkinson's disease. Again, if you have anyone that you know, if it's you personally or family, friend, neighbor, anyone that you think could be impacted in a positive way, please have them reach out to us. We'll at least see what we can do to try to help alleviate some of that suffering. So thank you so much for participating as usual. Great job for you. We'll look forward to being with you next week on the 13th of November for another exciting edition of Living at Your Highest Quality of Life. So thank you. And we always want you to remember that it's your time to thrive. Let us inspire you. You guys have a great week. Go out and vote.
Yep.
Take care.
All right. Bye.